Why does it hurt so much when the day breaks? Why does it hurt so much when the day breaks? It's the Cornbread Man Morning Show on your radio. It's the Cornbread Man Morning Show. It's the Cornbread Man Morning Show on your radio. It's the Cornbread Man Morning Show.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly
Oh, yes. God bless America. God bless you. We appreciate you so much for being here, and we hope you've had a great Sunday. We've had a good time at church. It's been a good day, and I hope that for you all that you have you're blessed and healthy and everything. We're going to get to the news. There's a number of articles that I want to cover tonight. One of those is the Miami, the election on Tuesday. Dick Morris, he's been someone who worked with the Clintons, way back in the day, but he's been, working more conservative for the last, couple of decades, really. And he said that this is a defining moment. I told Newsmax that Miami would be the Dems poster child if he wins, that him and AOC would then be the face of the radical Democrat Party. And I would agree with that assessment. He told the Count on Saturday that when people think of the Democratic Party, they're going to think of Mamdani and AOC. Of course, that's Alexandria Ocasio Cortez. And he said a Mamdani win would serve as a national symbol of the Democratic Party's growing radicalism. And I said it in the show earlier before I left for church. It is shocking just where we're kind of at with this, that it's even being conceived that this man could then be even considered. But that's just kind of the place that we are as we look at the elections, and that's one of those that's really kind of crazy when we think about it. That wow, and this symbol, the symbol, whether you like New York or not, the symbol of America to the rest of the world is the Big Apple. That is, that was the place that people came in. It is the place of business, and it's just truly amazing that people would consider this radical. Of course, others would say maybe that's because we've allowed too much to the melting pot to be too much. I don't know, and certainly others would say particular belief systems that came in. But the younger usually younger goes against the grain, and he has a lot of the younger vote, and he says all the right things. He's kind of a slick dude. He just brings something, and really, I think it's a testimony to just how bad New York leadership has been for a long time. I mean, it's not been good. And so this guy comes along. He says all the right things. He promises the world, and you've got someone who is considered to be the next, and he may very well win. He's trending ahead. The numbers are ahead for him, and we shall see. President Trump said that he told China, or he didn't say that he told them. He says that China knows the consequences if it invades Taiwan. I want to shift over to the Epoch Times, of which I'm a subscriber. It's a great news organization for conservative news, especially China news, if you ever are looking for that. And he said that they understand this, that it's something that's understood. It doesn't have to be said, and so that may very well be true. Hold on, I had a little thing pop up. That may very well be true for him, but does that really mean that he would not attempt to invade Taiwan? But he says he understands the answer to that. Never even came up yesterday as a subject. He never brought it up. Trump told 60 Minutes, an interview that took place the day after his meeting with Xi. And so he says he never brought it up because he understands it, and he understands it very well. We will see. I don't know that he understands that. I think he understands that I think he measured those things. I think China measured those things of what kind of response we would have. Now, I will say this: he knows that President Trump is working to make working to make the military stronger, to get things in motion, and I think the bombing of Iran certainly puts at least a thinking about it in there. So the Taiwan Relations Act of 1979. Under that act, the United States has no defense pact with Taiwan, but continues to sell Taiwan arms. In fact, there's another story on the Epoch Times that the Taiwanese are using Abrams tanks, and that they are going to fight. They're not going to lay down. In other words, And so we are definitely partnered with them in a great way. So they vow to defend their sovereignty, and they have been modernizing their military. Now, I don't know what kind of a fight they could put up against China, but who's to say? I don't know that, but certainly I don't think they would be alone. But I don't know. There has been all kinds of military uh, diagrams trying to spell out what might happen if China invaded. Of course, why would they want it? Well, number one, it's a sore spot for the Chinese. They don't like that they broke away. But really, that there's that. But the biggest thing is money. The biggest thing is control. It's the chip makers. They're some of the best in the world. Are the best in the world are among those that are being built and designed in Taiwan, and they certainly want that. But it is this article by Tom Ozimic says that Taiwan has formally introduced its first U.S. made M1A2T Abrams main battle tank into service, with President Lei Ching hailing the deployment as a major milestone in the island's military modernization and a symbol of its determination to defend its sovereignty against growing pressure from Communist China. At a ceremony at an army base in Hsinchu, the Taiwanese president handed the new Abrams tanks over to the 584th Armored Brigade, the first unit to replace its older tanks with the U.S. made models, according to the military press. The event included a gun salute, a troop inspection, and a formal handover between the old and the new tanks. He said, "We have new equipment, new technology, and we also have a need for new training and thinking in the spirit of asymmetric warfare to effectively enhance our combat capabilities," Lei said during the ceremony, according to the translation of his speech. Taiwan purchased 108 M1A 2T Abrams tanks under a contract approved during President Trump's first term as part of a broader effort to bolster the island's defense capabilities. He said during Friday's ceremony that Taiwan's military buildup is aimed at persevering peace and stability, not provoking conflict. He reaffirmed his government's position against Chinese annexation or political control, which comes as Chinese Communist Party CCP officials have vowed to reunify Taiwan with the mainland by force if necessary. And the last thing I'll say from this story, he says, we strengthen national defense to protect our homeland and maintain peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait. Lee said, our strength can bring true peace. Signing a peace agreement cannot bring peace, and accepting the demands of aggressors and relinquishing sovereignty will certainly not achieve peace. This kind of shifted. Nobody has talked a whole lot about it. There's been an ongoing layered talking about it over time, and during right before President Trump took office and right after, the whole talk about Greenland was certainly in relation to China and Taiwan, and that has simmered down. Certainly hasn't went away, and I would think that there would be further talks about that in the near future. And it looks as though, without them saying it outwardly, the president has told Pete Hegseth to get the military ready for war on several fronts. But really, the biggest threat is China, because if they go after the Taiwanese, I think that he will help defend them. That's my belief. I don't know that it's true, but Pete Hegseth, they talk in sort of double talk, as they don't always want to give away too much. But Pete Hegseth did say during a trip to Asia this week, he issued a warning about China's rapid military buildup, calling it one of the most urgent security challenges of the era. And he certainly wouldn't say that without the president's backing and approval. He said that he called it one of the most urgent security challenges of the era, speaking at Japan's defense ministry in Tokyo after talks with his Japanese counterpart, Shinjiro Kozumi. Hegseth said the region's security environment remains quote unquote severe. So I think that they think that something's going to happen in the near future. They certainly seem to be building that way and moving at a very fast pace to be ready for something to happen. He went on to say, quote, the threats we face are real and they are urgent. Now, when you throw that word urgent there, it means that something is definitely afoot, that there has been, of course, incursions into airspace of various nations by the Chinese. Of course, the Russians have done it as well. But the Chinese have been very blatant about being bullish about some of the seas over there and about, testing airspace, even with balloons. We saw that in our own nation. And so they see this action, and we should definitely, I wouldn't say overbuild it, but if they're talking this way, we certainly shouldn't dismiss it. Doesn't mean anything's going to happen. It means that they're saying we've got to be ready, and they believe that it is a an aggression that has to be, it has to be addressed. He said, "Make no mistake about it. Our alliance is critical to deterring Chinese military aggression, to respond to regional contingencies and keeping our country safe, shoulder to shoulder with Japan. We look forward to continuing to strengthen our alliance." His remarks, these are Hegseth, came a day after Trump and Japanese Prime Minister Shane Takachaki toured the aircraft carrier USS George Washington in Yokosuka and signed what both leaders described as, quote, a new golden age, end quote, for the U.S. Japan alliance. So there are definitely allegiances being made to face North Korea, China, and yes, possibly even Russia. But I don't think Russia is the main one that they're concerned about. The president certainly has kind of left that open, has pushed for peace, but he's not pushed in any way militarily too much outside of selling equipment and certainly giving intelligence help to the Ukrainians, and kind of rough talking Putin a little bit. Not much, but with China, it's a whole different story. There's actually things happening, military buildup, not only by us but by the Taiwanese, and I think that is probably pretty critical. Robert Peters, a senior fellow at the Heritage Foundation. By the way, I love the Heritage Foundation. I love what they have to say. They put out some great material. If you're not following them, do so, especially during election time. He told the Epoch Times that China's massive navy, growing missile stockpile, and expanding nuclear force present, quote, a significant threat to the United States, end quote. In response to international threat environment, Trump recently announced the resumption, and we just heard this, a few days ago, right? A resumption of U.S. nuclear testing and secured new shipbuilding investments from South Korea to boost America's naval output. Folks, we're moving at lightning speed. Things are happening so fast, it's really even hard to keep up with the latest news. We've got the drug wars going on in the Caribbean, and certainly hitting those people. Venezuela, running feints on them. At any moment, we could be running bombing runs on Venezuela's military and different things to affect Maduro. Certainly, we've got the Russia-Ukraine. Certainly, we're involved in up to our necks in the Middle East, and yet with all that going on and more, there is the threat from China that they're saying is basically a clear and a present threat for us, and we should pay attention to that. That's I know they're in the region. That news is going to come out more, but the Chinese are definitely have been building for a long time. I told you they've been working in the South American countries for some time. They've been putting libraries. They've been building up shipping areas for many of those countries down there. The libraries have Chinese brainwashing books, really, is what they are, to praise the Chinese and put down others. They've really been working on our flank, is what I see. It's all about America. It has nothing to do with the rest of the world. They're doing this to build up an army of fellow like-minded men that they could pull from in the event they need them, and to have ability to use their coastline or their shipping areas or whatever, or even land bases. That should be alarming to us. If just like the Russians using Cuba, that seems to be something they're doing, is sort of flanking us in by working with these places like Venezuela. And let's be clear: is Venezuela a threat to us militarily? Absolutely not. What is Venezuela? What is their threat? Their threat is in the allegiance with China. Always follow China in this, because that's the threat that's why Greenland's under threat. They kept talking about Russia. It wasn't Russia. It's China. It's always China. They're the ones that's trying to be a world dominating, world power, making deals all over the world, and trying to box the United States in. And we just got so weak in our military and so weak in our our foreign diplomacy, that it took someone like President Trump to come along and check that, and he's doing it very quickly. Which also says that those reports that they hear put definitely a thought in their mind that China might move and move quickly. Coming back home domestically, it is said that the food stamp payments could restart by November 5th, so 3 days. I had said earlier that some stores were they didn't have as much business because obviously there's a lot of people that don't have it. Those were supposed to mail out, they didn't. They don't have that, and it's going to get really sticky really quickly as so many people need those. Of course, a judge has ordered them to pay that. But the funding therefore it was because of the shutdown or the lack of funding rather is for it. So the payments they want to start those by full or partial uh, by the third or the fifth if possible. And I would say that the phones are ringing off the hook at senators' offices all across the United States and news desk and everything else of people saying, "What are we going to do, and where are we going to go?" And food banks, which we know don't have enough food to even supply all the need that there already is in their areas. I can tell you that the Chattanooga Food Bank, as much says this when they send the mailings to me, they do the best they can. They try to get and spread it out as far and wide as they can to meet the need. But they said they don't have they what they do is pretty amazing, but they don't have the food supply to supply the need as it is currently. Forget those people not having food stamps. Not to say some of those people may be getting that benefit as well, since they are that, but it's going to get worse. And I've heard people say, "What are we supposed to do? Go on the food stamps, as we have always called them." And I know they use the phrase EBT and all that, but basically food stamps, the food supplements. Uh, but there may not be, if there's no money there, there's no food. And if more people are in the system, there may not be any food anyway. It'll just dry up. I mean, where are we going to get this? So it should be considered a national emergency because when people get hungry, they're going to get a little crazy. I mean, obviously, if you were hungry, you're going to find food. And so, with all that's going on outside the country, we have enough going on inside. And we have a party that is refusing to even attempt to sign on any kind of a partial agreement or something to fund just certain things. They won't even do that. And in a very short time, I mean, food's going to go fast. And there's probably something mental when somebody feels like, it's like when you think you only have so much, you end up consuming more because you're focused on it. And you panic a little bit. People would, and I understand that. And people that have not been used to going without. I mean, if you go back far enough in our country during the Depression, there were people that starved to death, and certainly there is starvation type issues in America. There are people that don't have enough food and they go underfed and undernourished, and they're not healthy. But there's food available. There were times in our history where there was no food in certain areas and people just ceased to exist. They just the crops were gone. The Dust Bowl. We think about times like that, and over 300 million Americans, and you can imagine a significant percentage of that. What if it was just 1 million people, 1 million people around the country that were hungry and there were no food? Of people that have just recently became maybe displaced from housing. Maybe they're living in their cars now, they can't even get food. How crazy is that going to get? And what kind of security are you going to need at stores? And the police can't guard them all. What kind of security are you going to need? Because people are going to come. I mean, it could turn ugly quickly. I knew a guy once, and he said he was a cattleman. He said, "I would give you food to eat if needed, but don't kill my cattle." I said, "Friend, if starvation came to a significant portion of society, you couldn't be able to hold off the horde. They would come take your cattle, and they knew you had it. I mean, they would catch you while you was at work, brother." I mean, he just didn't think about it in that term, because people always like down here in the South, they like to say, "Well, I've got something for them." Well, you go to sleep, you go to work, you're not always able to be there. Your cattle would just be gone, sadly. But that's what would happen because people would be in a bad way. So, at the end of the day, no matter who's responsible or whatever your feelings are about it, 41 million, think about that. I said 1 million. What if it was just 1 million? 41 million Americans rely on every month these food stamp payments to survive. Now, tell me that we're not in trouble in America. 41 million Americans rely on some sort of assistance to make it through each month for food. And what portion of 41 million is going to get crazy if there's no food? That's how, and they go to the food banks, and the food banks are cleaned out. Maybe the U.S. has stockpiles. I mean, we got billions of pounds of cheese, but that ain't going to cut it. What's going to happen? What's going to happen when you unleash? This is what's happened with all that's happened over the course of the debt that we've got in, with people being allowed to be a welfare state. There's probably 50 things we can list here, and to be in this position, and for a party to be playing, and they know this. This is not a secret to the politicians. They know exactly. They get those reports. They know exactly how many people are on this assistance. They know exactly how much money it takes to fund it. They know exactly how much food is needed out there to keep the populace happy. All these things are constantly being evaluated as a matter of domestic tranquility or whatever. And can you imagine 41 million Americans? Now, a significant portion of that is probably children. But again, what if it's just 1 million or 5 million? 5 million people spread across the country that all of a sudden there's no food for them and they're used to getting monthly assistance. How many days is it going to take for crazy to start? They better do something. That's all I got to say. This has went on, and it's went on too far. And then we need to clean up. I mean, there's fraud with this as well. There's definitely fraud. 41 million Americans. We need to get that fixed. The Department of Agriculture, USDA, has warned on October 25th that the well had, quote, run dry and that no benefits would be issued on November 1st. Well, yesterday was November 1st, and I work a part-time job as security at a major box retailer. And I mentioned this earlier. And last night about 8:30 on a Saturday night, it just went really dead. And I was asking one of the workers what kind of day he had. He said, well, it was a good day. He said, we just died at 8:30. I said, I noticed that. The parking lot got really empty. He said it's because the EPT payments were not sent and their people didn't have anything to come by with. Now think about that. One night. Can you imagine? Now here we are in a full day from that. This is day 2. Day 2, they don't have that. Monday, day 3, the stockpiles are, drying up a little bit. They can't go down there and get the fresh stuff and all that. That's probably went very quickly. Canned goods, maybe they're good for a little while. Think of where we're at, and it is a very serious thing. The agency stated in a memo obtained by the Epoch Times a day before that emergency funds cannot legally be used to keep the SNAP program running if Congress does not vote to pass a funding agreement. The memo states that the money is used for emergencies such as hurricanes, tornadoes, and floods that can come on quickly and without notice. So there's your stockpiles. However, the money for it anyway, that's the stockpile for buy the food. The memo contradicts the USDA's September 30th lapse of funding plan, which has since been deleted from the agency's website. Did you hear about this? They just took it down. This is a couple of days ago that I remember even hearing about this, that they took the lapse of funding plan down. Congressional intent is evident that SNAP's operations should continue since the program has been provided with multi-year contingency funds that can be used for state administrative expenses to ensure that the state can also continue operations during a federal government shutdown. The agency's now deleted shutdown policy reads. These multi-year contingency funds are also available to fund participant benefit in the event that a lapse occurs in the middle of the fiscal year. When asked by CNN about the now deleted lapse of funding plan directive, Bassett said Trump is very anxious to get this done, and it's got to go through the courts. So the court has rejected this, and so here we are. It's a matter of I blame you, and the people suffer. Look, I'm supportive of the administration, but I would just say to both sides, you better do something. You better take the emergency funds. You better get something out to these folks, because there are people that aren't getting a paycheck right now too that are probably not on food stamps. They work for the government. One of my sisters is among them. They're okay. Husband's working, but she's not getting paid. How long is she going to continue to work a job where she's not getting paid? 2 paychecks now, I believe, that have not been received. Every day you're working, doing the job, but you're not getting paid. What about people that ain't getting food benefits? And how long are they going to wait? Like I said, they're not going to wait 2 weeks. Food's going to go quickly. You got to settle this. So come Monday morning, They need to figure this out and figure it out quickly. And they better get in a room. And you may not get the overall battle over with, but get the food part figured out. Get the food part figured out. And by the way, what does my sister do? She works for the VA and she helps vets who call in with needs about their benefits and stuff. She's at her post helping veterans with benefit questions and stuff, and there to help those who have served our nation, and she's not being paid for that. That's the ridiculousness of what this is. This has went on far too long, in my opinion, and they need to get it fixed. These fat cat politicians are hurting everyday Americans, and let me tell you something: they don't care. They don't care. And not even picking a side right now because we're at a critical stage right now, and it's got to be fixed. No matter what the agenda is of either side, right now I blame both, and you can blame one more than the other. I get that, but folks, when it's fixing, listen, we don't want the crazy that's fixing to happen. And how far does this extend, and how far? What about? I'm sure. Are we going to contingency feed the kids that in school that are under being free lunch? I mean, there are schools in my region, in some cases whole counties, but in some counties it's some schools, and it's considered so poor in that area that the schools are on it's free lunch for every kid, no matter what your status is. They're come under a federal guideline, and there's free lunch. This has been going on for a year and a half, or maybe longer, but I know at least a year and a half, free lunch, and also snack packs that are sent home, which sometimes those are supplied through ministries and things that happen. Certainly, I would hope to God we're not going to, start not feeding kids in the local school. If those funds dry up, I mean, local people might could kick in. But you imagine the money that's involved in that, how quickly. I'm sure that's not a part of this, but how far does this go? Where do we go from here? If we're going to let everyday people just starve, I mean, these kids are coming home. They already don't have, sometimes they don't go with a meal. They're not fed. And the school lunch and breakfast is what they get. Some of them for the bulk of the day. That's why even during times of holiday and the summer, there are programs put in place to feed these kids every day, just like they were going to school. That's where we're at. That's the crazy that we're at in America. That's the scary, not even crazy, but scary part of where we're at. And an adult maybe can get up and get in a better position. Certainly, absolutely. I've worked hard my whole life. You can do it. And I understand, and I get that argument, but the kids, they're stuck. They can't help what's going on, and that right there does make me angry. So, we'll see what happens with the court about this. It's being used in a political football, being tossed back and forth, but it's ridiculous and it needs to change. But they can't reach a deal, and there's no money to be had, and we got people living in their cars. I mean, you go to the box store, and there are people that are they're living in a car, the best they have. That's where they move around. They'll stay at the big box store until they're asked to move. They'll go away for a day or two, and they'll end up coming back. And you have a lot of people that are living like this. We got families living in tents in the woods, and their kids are in school. This happens. People get displaced all the time with the high cost of rent, the high cost of if you can find housing, if you can even find housing. There's a lot of people teetering on the edge of a collapse of basic need in my area. I know, and just think about that need across the country. They know the condition that the country's in. They know how bad it is. They know how much it costs to get all these goods and services done. Everything's went up. Nothing's really come down much, and it's getting tougher and tougher. And now you throw this on top of the pile. We're getting ready for a great catastrophe to happen if something doesn't change. Now, obviously, they'll make the pain point very hard. Then they'll do something. Not suggesting this is going to get settled, but it's ridiculous that people have to be put in that position that they're not going to get something for a few days. And how quickly, I mean, if kids eat, they eat a lot. You can make yourself ration, but it's really hard to ration kids. They got, they're burning calories. They eat. And if you have kids, you understand this. I mean, you're like, wow, I got to go back to the store. I got to have more of this. I mean, I'm raising growing, kids that are growing, and they're playing sports, they're doing whatever, and they eat a lot. And so, and food prices is what they are. It's difficult to make those ends meet. So my heart goes out. It is in every family. It is in every family. I hate to go to the store. I feel like I'm being robbed to go. We have done everything we can do to just not keep our food prices down. And there are things you can do, and we're actively, because nobody has that. I mean, I don't have that kind of money to just keep going to stores and just throw away hundreds of dollars every week. You have to be smart about your meal planning and what you're going to fix. And these same knuckleheads, they're knuckleheads, the same ones that complain about the health condition of a lot of Americans. Well, they can't afford to pay and buy a lot of times for food that's healthier. That's just fact. And now think just how much worse it's going to get. My granddaughter has spent some time with some family. They struggle. I mean, it's just, that's not a shame. It's just truth. And the only reason I bring this up is because she said something, and it made me think even more about this. And I made the comment, well, her family right now is having to live in a pay by the week motel. This has become a big thing in America, right? More so than ever. They're building these things everywhere. This is where families are living. I mean, kids are living. And I made the comment that even at the Dollar Tree, they went up another 25 cents. It's a buck 50 now. It doesn't sell that much. You start adding everything up. And she was talking about, yeah, I know. Said we went there and we bought some things to eat on. She goes, I know it's not healthy for us. And I said, yeah, and it's a shame that we preach that, we talk about eating healthier, but people get stuck, going to the path that the least resistance that they can afford, and that is to go in and buy junk food, things that are processed and all that. I'm not saying they couldn't try harder and go to fruit stands. I'm not dismissing that, but this is what happens: is they end up going those places, and they end up that becomes a lot of the diet. That's what's on the shelf. That's what's in the buggy. And I don't know how people do it. When I'm at the store and I see families, I mean, they work hard. I get it, but they're pushing out 2 and 3 buggies. It's got to be several $100s. I remember one night there was a guy pushed his buggy out, and he was looking at his receipt. It wasn't that big, it was just and the buggy was not full. And he says, he's just shaking his head. And I said, you okay? There's something wrong. And he said, well, yeah. He said, I'm trying to figure out how in the world I spent $300 and that's all I got. And I remember, and it's hard. We tend to look back as we get older. And I was thinking back on my dad. I can still remember my dad complaining to my mom when I was just a boy. She had spent $25 at the store. And I remember my dad, is the Archie Bunker moment. And he says, $25? Well, I'm not made of money. You can't. And of course, this is back in a time when he probably only brought home $65 a week, honestly. $65, $75 a week. They weren't making much at all. It was a very hard time in the South at that time. This would have been in the early 70s. And, pay was very poor and low. And, he worked 2 jobs. My dad worked 2 jobs most of his life. He's deceased now. And I remember that. And I was thinking in my head, $25. I didn't have the understanding yet of what that meant. What was $25? And I was thinking of this gentleman and my dad. And he had that. My dad was like, I can remember him getting a receipt. What did you buy? And God, these food prices versus what he had to spend and what that cost, it was the same thing. It's the same equation. The 70s were tough, right? The energy crisis, things did go up. And I just remember, and I was thinking to myself as a young man, just a young boy, $25. It doesn't sound like a lot of money, but for them, it was a heck of a lot of money. Nowadays, we have so much more. We make more. We spend more. Things cost more. And although $300 in of itself is not a huge amount of money, to some people, that's the difference. between eating and not eating. And there are people struggling with that. So anyway, I didn't mean to spend that much time on that, but it is something that needs to be straightened out very quickly come Monday morning in our country. And I hope and pray that they will do that. On top of that, government shutdown could delay home heating for millions of low-income families. It just gets worse, right? Uh, there is a program that pays 4.1. Now listen to this: $1 billion in funds. $4.1 billion in funds to almost 6 million households to help heat and cool their homes. A part of this shutdown has affected that, which is now in its fifth week. This is called the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program, LIHEAP. Provides 4.1 billion in funds to 5.9 million households to help heat and cool their homes for energy crisis and home weatherization and minor energy related repairs. Now that temperatures are dropping across the country, some states are cautioning that the funds for the program are being delayed by the shutdown. This comes on top of the food part. So we know now we don't have food for them. In some cases, they may be hit with the energy things they can do to help make their home sealed better, or to fix a broken, heater or air, whatever it may be. That now may be on the altar of this government shutdown. So we will see what happens, but that's sad. Mark Wolf is the executive director of the National Energy Assistance Directors Association. They represent state directors of the program, told the AP, Associated Press, quote, the impact, even if it's temporary, on many of the nation's poor families is going to be profound if we don't solve this problem, end quote. All 50 states, the District of Columbia, U.S. territories, and federally recognized tribes are served by LIHEAP. Quote, these are important income supports that are all potentially headed towards a cliff at the same time, Wolf said. And I can't point to a similar time in recent history when we've had this. It was established in 1981 and has received bipartisan congressional support. The federal government allots funds to the states each year, using a formula that mostly considers state weather patterns, energy prices, and low-income population demographics. While the White House proposed giving LIHEAP zero funds in the budget this year, saying the program was, quote, necessary because states have policies preventing utility disconnection for low-income households, effectively making LIHEAP a subsidy for utility companies, as well as a 2010 study that found that fraud and abuse in the program, states anticipated Congress will fund the program for fiscal year 2026, which began on October 1st. So we're already in that fiscal year. Congress has not yet approved that full funding bill, and states have yet to receive their new allocations. Several states, including Minnesota, New York, Pennsylvania, and Kansas, said their programs are facing delays during the ongoing shutdown. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro's administration said it cannot front the $200 million plus in federal aid that it brings in, and anticipates roughly 300,000 low-income households that they help pay their heating bills in the state. They won't be able to assist them with this. As temperatures begin to drop, this delay could have serious impacts. They support 120,000 households, including homeowners and renters in the state. This is Minnesota now. That may also include senior citizens, young children, and those with disabilities. So again, we set up all these programs. I get it over time, and yeah, we need to clean up a lot of this stuff. There's things that needs to happen in our nation. People that are just lifetime drains on this. It's a big deal. It's not going to be fixed overnight. It took generations to get here, and it's going to take a long time to get out. But you can't just cut it. That's not what you do. And it's like a drug user. You got to slowly bring them down and get them off. You can't just stop it. And that's what can happen right now. And so everybody's playing the blame game right now. But the people that need the help are not going to get it. And let me say this. There was a time in my life where we had a very difficult financial time. My mom was disabled. Mom and dad's divorced. We didn't have We didn't have a lot of money. I worked. I was a teenager. I was almost grown, but I worked since I was 15 years old. So I'm out working. My mom got benefits. I know what it is to take the benefits. And that in that day, you had the ones you tore out, and it was not always the funnest thing to go up and all the people be looking because hear the whispers behind you, and it was not clean. I mean, you had to get the right ones and tear them out. And my mom was not able to go to the store, so I went for her a lot. I was the oldest child, and but you're hungry, you want the food, and it was always a great day to be able to go and get that. We had help and assistance from people that were from churches and stuff at times too. There were a lot of people that God sent our way. There was also I can remember my mom. I mean, almost really every month working with the energy, uh, people here in our town to make arrangements for to pay our power bill. We rarely had it paid ahead of time. We were always making arrangements, and we would just get one paid, and here's the new one. We're making arrangements, and there were times I had to go down and speak with him myself, and I was doing everything we could to make sure that things stayed on, and we did. But it was always a battle, and there were a few times, and it's so difficult for people to do. You got the takers. I'm not talking about the takers. I'm talking about the blood suckers that'll just drain anybody. I'm talking about people that were in a situation they didn't create it, health issues, just not a lot of money. And my mom, I can remember there were a few times. Most of the time we were able to handle it, but there were times my mom had to make the phone calls to agencies and stuff and see if there were any assistance that could help pay our power bill. And I vowed when I through living through that I would number one that I'd always be there. I told my wife we will never divorce. We're going to stay together for our family, and I don't want to live through that. I don't want my kids to go through that again, and that I would work my tail off, and whatever how much ever that meant. That were and that's one of the things my wife will tell you to this day. This is how it's impacted me. That I have said that there may be some things I have to put off. We all have times where we just don't have the money to pay certain things when we'd like to pay them. But I said there's two things that will never ever ever not be paid, and that will be our water bill and our light bill, and we will always make sure that that is done. I don't want to have to make arrangements. I don't want to ever have to get behind. I want those things paid, and I will work. I will work myself to a grave if I have to make sure those things happen. And I know what that feels like. I know what this feels like for people, and for someone who's been there. And we weren't people who sat around. We were people who worked. There were things that happened. My dad, even when he was living with us, he got laid off every year from his job. He worked a second job, but it wasn't always enough. There were once we lost a car. They bought a new car. They felt like times were going good. Late 70s, things were opening up, but it crashed down. And my dad, it just really hurt him bad. My dad was always the person that paid his bills, and he lost the car. And I loved that car. It hurt so bad. There were times there I've been there when your name was turned in because at Christmas time, my dad got laid off at Christmas time every year, and he would try his best. But you're working paycheck to paycheck, even working two jobs. And my mom would stay at home, and she took care of us kids. She worked a little bit, but mainly she'll stay at home, and always trying to manage budget, use coupons, all those things. And I was one of those kids once that the fire department came and brought toys to. It's. I just say those things to say this. I understand, and I know the fear that must be in somebody's, right now. While these numbskulls are up here bouncing back the political ball and blaming each other, there are people in homes that are scared to death right now, and that's a shame. And I'm not talking about the ones that just takers. They just take and they never give. I'm talking about people that have worked hard their whole life, and they're maybe their own. Social Security. Well, that's a whole lot of money, ain't it? They are going to get a raise this year. I'm glad to hear that. Cost of living, I think, raise. Well, if they don't take that, but I understand what it is and what these people are going through because I've lived it myself, and it's to me it was always embarrassing because you try very hard not to be in that position, and then here it comes, and you know I have a great heart and a sympathy for that. I know that if you've ever been at the ever been at the checkout and you thought you had more, you misfigured or whatever, and you didn't have enough to pay, you had to put stuff back, and they give you that roll the eyes as you tell the clerk, "I'm sorry, I misfigured this. I've got to put a couple things back." And well, I'll have to get a manager over here. I've lived through that. I tried to never let that happen. I don't like the attention on me. I was very shy, but sometimes you just make a mistake. Something rung up more than you thought it was going to be. You're trying to spin down and just maximize and get everything you can. And I've had that happen. I've also been the guy bagging the groceries on the other side of the line when people come through and they're very, they very poor. And I had great sympathy because, and little did I know at the time when I first started it, I had never lived in that. I didn't know that time would come later as I was working my first real paying job. And at that time I was helping my family. We were having it tough. I remember Christmas time again, it was a tough Christmas. And I told my family, I said, there was one thing they weren't going to be able to keep. And I said, yes, we are. I'm paying for it. And I helped my family by Christmas. I had started when I was 15. This is when I was probably 16 years old. And I hustled and made all the tips I could and worked over if they give it. They don't let you work a lot overtime, but I'd work and I never discriminated against anybody that whether I didn't take groceries out based on whether they could pay or not. I took everybody, but I did hustle and I was able to get a good amount of tips every day, and it made me feel good to help my family. That's what families do, and it made me feel good to help my dad, my mom, and I've just always known work. My kids, they've always known work. That's what we do. We work, and we got the battle, the body battle fatigue to testify to the fact that we have worked hard all of our lives, and like a lot of Americans have. But just think about some of these people and the cost in urban areas and how much more expensive things are in those areas and what are people going to do. So this is really, it's a big issue. It doesn't get the coverage that it should. It's getting the coverage, but there's more that should be done, and we need to get that done now. There's also they say massive fraud in the food stamp program. I'm not surprised because there are people that have been draining on the system. Well, let's clean that up. There are people who need those. But Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins said today that the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, or food stamps, is a broken and corrupt program. Well, okay, if it is, then fix it. If it is, then fix it. But don't use that as the screen. I'll say this, don't use that as the screen to make it sound like that, well, it's okay if we withhold some funds. No, let's get this stuff out. You can be fixing it, but you just feed people right now. Just feed people. Then you fix the problem. In an interview on Fox News, Rollins said that while the Trump administration is moving to get the program restarted, 21 states refused to hand over their data to the Department of Government officially DOGE on whether the illegal immigrants were receiving these benefits. Thousands of cases of illegal benefit use were also found. Dozens were arrested for SNAP fraud, and thousands of dead people were still receiving the benefits. Okay, that's on you. Clean it up. I mean, force the states, and let's clean the crap up. And she said, guess what? In just the states that cooperated, we've already uncovered massive fraud. She posted on X on Sunday. After the second Trump administration takeover, if they took over, the Department of Agriculture, USDA, launched an investigation into SNAP fraud and abuse, said Rollins. She said her department asked all 50 states to send in the data for review, but 21 states did not. Well, okay, deal with it. Like I say, this should have already been dealt with anyway before we ever got to here. President said today that, or he posted on social media that he would provide the money, but wanted more legal direction from the court, after which U.S. District Judge John J. McConnell in Rhode Island ordered the government to report back by Monday on how it would fund SNAP accounts. Democrats demanded this week that the government fund SNAP, but Republicans responded by arguing the program is in such a dire situation because lawmakers have repeatedly voted against reopening the government. There's your political football. Okay, blame each other. Yes. Fight it out. Scrap it out. I think we should have a boxing ring out back of the Capitol and let y'all just duke it out. That's fine. But don't cut the people off. Fix the fraud, but don't withhold. Let's get help in their hands. So yeah, they're using this to bash the other. But all the while they're doing that, help is slow to come for the people who need it the most. These folks ain't going short of food. Those people ain't gonna have to worry about food stamps or SNAP. Those people ain't gonna have to wonder what they're gonna do for the meals for the rest of the week. I have no sympathy for them. I know they're there representing us, but they represent all Americans. And are we going to look a kid in the face and say, "Sorry, it's their fault. It's politics"? No, let's feed them. Let's fix the problem. Fight it out, duke it out, go in the courts, battle royale. Let's do it, but feed the kids and clean it up along the way. You can't just come to a full stop. You got to fix the problem. And there are so many tentacles of this thing. Like I said, how far does it go, and how much further will it go if they don't do something and do it quickly? So, like I said before, I don't really want to hear who's doing what until you make sure that these people are being fed. That's a scary thing, and I think it's sad for our country. You people knew there was fraud in this program all along, both sides of this. They don't give me that you just found this out. You knew this. Nobody's wanted to address it. If they had, they would have addressed it before now. They've all Congress has had the ability to do this. It didn't take till now to get there where they could investigate the issues with fraud in the government. They've all been guilty of this. Okay, we came along, we see it, let's clean it up. But this administration, I support them, but they also overreached at times in Doge when they were firing people. In some cases, they had to bring back people because they fired people that nobody else could do their job. I mean, they made mistakes. We're not perfect. They're not perfect. And this is a big one for the president. This could blow up in their face. The Democrats are, they're squirrely. There's a lot of words I could use. That's just my word. I'm clean for it now. They're going to use it. They're going to use it to bash the Republicans over their head. But you know what? You deserve it if you're stupid enough to fall into that trap. Fix the issue. Quit fighting over that part. And let's, be out there, just like you put Halloween candy in their basket, put food in their home and get it done. And I don't care what party you are. Kids should not be going hungry. And this could turn into something very, very ugly. It sounds like something out of a third world country, doesn't it? So, something in poorer countries in Europe. It's crazy that we're hearing this happen here. Like I said, it's a sick country. It's been getting sicker over time with the fraud, the abuse, the waste, everything, the deep debt, and it's like pull up the debt clock and watch that thing scroll off. We're just paying interest. We're not paying down anything, and systems are on thin ice in America. A lot of systems, and there's so many systems. They've developed so many that there's no funds there for them. And these local entities, they don't have the funds. They don't have the ability to pay that. And they're just going to collapse. And what happens with them? We're just barely hanging on as it is with the programs in place. Food supply, food security is the issue of our day anyway. We've already seen that there's shortages around the world. There's not enough food to go around. A fact. I mean, and that's because of many things. War. They have stolen farmland. There is a ton of reasons why there's not. But one thing I don't think anybody disagrees with, there's not enough food to go around the world. Are we going to sit here and say there's not enough food to go around in the United States? Ridiculous. Let's get it done. Let's make things happen, and we can do that. We're the most powerful country on the face of the planet. And you know what? Get over yourselves and come together, bipartisan, and fix this. And I think if it's not, people should march on Washington with their kids with signs, hanging there that says, "I'm hungry." Certainly, because you can't deal with that without hurting the other by just shutting it off. You've got to fix the issue anyway. That's a little bit of the news tonight. It's a serious thing. We got military issues going on. We got government shutdowns affecting things, food shortages and the like, and we need to get it fixed come Monday. Yeah, we're going to keep battling. We're going to keep trying to clean up keep cleaning up the mess that's out there. There's fraud and abuse. There's drug issues, border issues, on and on it goes. We've done a lot. We've came a long way. We've got a long way to go. Don't fall in the trap of letting this derail the great things that have been going on. There's things you can do, President. You've done that. You found money, for pay the troops. Well, let's make sure kids are eating. Let's make sure humans are eating, not just kids, adults too. I'm not leaving them out. I don't see anybody go hungry. Let me say this. There was a time I remember, and I'll say this and I'll be done. I remember the day that the food stamps came in. That was a fun day. This is during the tough time. That was a fun day in our home. It lifted us. We were doing all the things. We're cooking the beans and we're baking things. We're putting things up. We're doing all the things. We're putting together every concoction we can to eat. But the day the stamps came, that was a day we could at least do a little extra. And I'll never forget what that felt like. And to me, and a lot of people know what that feels. Apparently, we got a lot of people feel like it felt like gold in your hand. Gold in your hand. And I always knew that there were, that everybody working were helping me. And I was working, I was paying into it. I was just needing help, me and my family. We weathered the storm. We got out of it. I got better paying jobs. We moved up. We took, care of we all lived together, including when I got married. We all lived together until such time as my sisters got moved off, met people and moved off and lived their own lives. And my mom lived with us until she just couldn't stay at home anymore and went into nursing care. And we've kept working hard. We've worked hard to this day. And that's one thing: food, electricity, water. Got to have those folks. And it's scary to think that 41 million people, maybe they say massive. Okay, what if it's 5 million people ain't supposed to be on there? Well, what if it's 10 million? Let's say if it's 10 million people that is not supposed to be on SNAP. That still leaves 31 million people. That's staggering. That's the problem we have in the country. So don't give me that crap. Yeah, there's waste, but there's a lot of people there that need it, and they need it. Quit throwing the talking points back across the bow, and let's get it fixed. And y'all can go fight it out. Anyway, that's the news for tonight. I'm Dave in the AM. I will try to be on with another show before I'm out. My wife needs my help, and so sometimes the times are altered a little bit. I hope you understand. If not, it's tough. I do what I can. But thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. And like the news desk, we talk a little bit more about it. There's so much I can't even get to. And maybe I shouldn't have commentary, but it just touches my heart. And people ask me, they say, we'd like to know what you think about certain things. So that's my 2 cents, if I have it. I do have 2 cents. Maybe not much more, but I do have 2 cents. Have a great night. God bless. We'll try our best to be back on in just a minute. Or a few minutes. I've got to go help my wife get into bed and make sure she's settled for the night. And my granddaughter's watching her, but she can't help her do that. That takes my strength. So we'll be back, and hopefully we can do one more. If not, we'll see you in the morning at the SFP Morning Show on Monday morning. Me and Rob back together again. I know Sunday's the first day, but we kicking off the week on Monday, and we kind of look at Sunday is kind of ends our broadcast week, and then we kick off on Monday together again in the morning. We'll have a full slate of shows all week long, and I mean all week long. There's a lot of things, extra shows even maybe we're looking into. So take care. God bless. I found a song. I didn't have my normal song in here, so that's why I played the other one. We'll go out with something, though. I don't even know what I'm going out with, so maybe I should have thought about that before I got to this point, but it's okay. It's okay. This is take care.
Rust on the barrel, sun in my eyes. Sweat on my back, freedom never dies. Hands callous, rough, heart unafraid. This land my right, my price already paid. Long live the Second Amendment. My blood, my soul, my commitment. Ain't no chains gonna hold me down. Long live the fight, long live the sound. Steel on my hip, cold and steady. The world turns, but I'm always ready. Born in the fire, forged in the fight. Ain't backing down, ain't losing this ride. They can talk, they can shout, but they don't know what it's about. Long live the Second Amendment. My blood, my soul, my commitment. Ain't no chains gonna hold me down. Long live the fight, long live the sound. The wolves, they circle, but I ain't blind. The line is drawn, ain't crossing mine. Stand like a mountain, tall and proud. Hear my voice, I'll scream it loud. Long live the Second Amendment. My blood, my soul, my commitment. Ain't no change